Yo, welcome back to another episode of the High Value Agent Podcast, where we inspire people to create a better life through real estate. And I'm going to break down how to become a listing monster. If you want to take several listings per month, if you want to have more control over your day, over your schedule, if you want to not tolerate working with maybe buyers that are not motivated, or you're wanting to just ultimately build a duplicatable, sustainable, and ultimately profitable business, you're going to want to pay attention because we do that through creating a high level, a high value listing business. Okay. So I'm going to unpack it for you what you need to do to become a listing monster in your market. We are up currently, our team, we're up over 30% year over year in listings that we have signed and put to market, taken to market. So we have been over the past 2 years now, we've increased our overall listing production by a very wide margin, a pretty big amount. And some people, when they hear growth or when they hear, oh, you were able to improve or get better at something, I think naturally we think it was complex. Like it was a very complex process that we had to go through to be able to make those improvements or make those changes in our growth. The reality is we didn't do that. We actually simplified and we optimized what we were already doing. So we were doing what we've been doing, but just doing it better. We were just doing it better. So when you are working to become a high level, a high value listing machine, I always tell people in order to be a high level listing machine, you got to be a pretty damn good buyer's agent too. And here's why. In order for you to know how to communicate to a seller what is important to a buyer, you need to know how a buyer thinks. And if you have worked with buyers, we'll say 10, 15, 20 transactions, you start to learn the complaints, the concerns, the things that buyers like, the things that buyers don't like when it comes to viewing homes, when it comes to the your market and the location, right? Different areas, subdivisions. You start to really pick up what buyers typically are looking for. When you're able to articulate the psychology of a buyer to your seller client, you're increasing your authority score and trust. They are hearing you and they are learning that, oh man, this person has the details and the information that I need to succeed and sell in my house. So I always tell people, like, being a brand new agent and then going right into listings, you can make it and be a high level, high value listing machine. However, I train people and coach people. Let's get buyers and let's really dial that process in, because you're going to learn and gain context over time. And that's going to help you transition much better into being a high value listing machine. So I'm going to start there. Your level of buyer agent competency is directly going to be correlated to how well and how seamless you transition into working with sellers. Now, I also want to say this. Working with buyers and working with sellers are two different worlds. Two different worlds. Buyers are buying off of emotion and they're later justifying with logic, where typically sellers are, now I won't say 100% logical, but for the most part, they're about 80% logical, 20% emotion. Okay. They want to know, when I sell my house, how much money am I making? And you have to help them discern not what you're selling it for, but how much net in pocket are you walking away with? Because a lot of sellers aren't thinking like that. They want to know, how much can I sell it for, but not really talking about the bottom line. And that's where you step in as a listing agent. But just something to keep in mind is, when you're working with sellers, they do have a different type of mentality. They're maybe a little more experienced than your typical buyer because they already bought a house and now they're selling it. So this isn't their first rodeo. Typically, too, you'll have sellers that are a little more confident these days because of the very low inventory in most markets. I don't even know if it's most markets anymore, but in our market, inventory is very low. And it's been that way for years. So you have sellers that are a little more confident, which means you got to be even stronger in your dialogues and your real estate conversations with that seller. Okay. Because your job is to help articulate a plan for them that's going to help them get what they want in the time they want. But further, they believe in your process 100% or as close to 100% as possible. Okay. So, um, I got some good news for you. And again, this is depending on the market. In our local market, we are down, not our company, we're up 35, 37% ish, right around there, kind of depending on the week. But we're up a pretty good amount compared to last year. Our market, however, is down 1 to 5%, roughly, again, depending on the week, year over year. So, as a listing agent, you learning to be a listing machine is great because if you can dial this in, you're going to gain market share if your market is down. Okay. You're going to gain more market share. Overall, you're going to gain more control, period. Because the person who controls the inventory controls the market. Okay. The person who controls the inventory controls the market. So, what we need to do is we need to get in front of more sellers and we have to make sure that we know what to say. We have a dialed in presentation. We understand the challenges that are happening in today's market, and we are fully competent and capable of explaining and breaking that down for the seller to understand. Okay. Do you have a listing presentation? Do you have a listing presentation? That's my question for you. A listing presentation. I have learned over the past decade that majority of real estate agents do not have a simple listing presentation. They don't have a presentation, period. That's majority of listing agents. And I've learned that the reason why they're able to even get a listing without having a listing presentation is because they're solely relying on working with friends and family or waiting for referrals to hopefully drop from the sky. The reality is when you look at their business, because the numbers don't lie, when you look at the number of deals that they have done in a 12-month period, you quickly realize that, oh, you don't do a lot of business. And it's because they don't have a listing presentation, which makes them not have the confidence to make a call to a for sale by owner or to circle prospect or cold call or to ask people for the opportunity of listing their house. They are following a business plan that is passive. I wait for my phone to ring with a referral because those are easier to convert. So, do you have a listing presentation? If you don't, this isn't the episode to break down what a listing presentation should consist of, but you need to get one. You need to get one. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be like crazy elaborate, it's just simple. But if you think that you can show up to a seller's house and not present your value to them, literally, you just show up with a contract. And then you got somebody like me who's also going to be meeting with that seller, which, by the way, if that was the case, I would have already met with the seller, presented to them, built a rapport and trust, got them to sign, and you would have been getting a call from me saying, "Hey, don't worry about it. They've already committed to working with me. We're going live here in about 2 weeks. I'll send you the information. Bring us a buyer." That you get a call like that from me because you would not have a presentation to articulate your value and convince them or influence them to hire you versus hiring somebody like me, or like some people on our team who are highly skilled in the listing presentation that we teach them. Getting a listing presentation first. Okay. I'm not even worried about you calling FISBOs or what you're going to say to people on the phone to set an appointment. I don't care about that yet. That is important. But you're not going to even have the confidence to make a phone call if you don't even know what to say to them when you get in front of them. So let's get that part dialed in first. That increases your confidence to make the phone calls. Okay. Then we have to also make sure that when it's time to make those calls, when it's time to do your prospecting, when it's time to generate, that we're consistently taking the action 5 days a week, 5 days a week. And if you're somebody who wants to reduce the time frame that you need to build a big listing business, do it 7 days a week if you don't have nothing else going on. But consistency in the action is critical. Is critical in your prospecting efforts. You're not going to hit home runs every day. As a matter of fact, you probably, as you're learning, you probably won't get any good results that you're looking for 90 days because you're not skilled yet. You got to build that skill set. You got to build a skill set. You got to build a habit. You got to build a behavior. But the way you do that quickly is you're consistent on a daily basis. Okay. Now, again, find a script. Find a script. You got so many great like frameworks and scripts. We use we have our own proprietary like frameworks that we use that have been created, and some stuff I've excuse me, learned from other people and then kind of made it my own. But like we train on that stuff daily, knowing what to say. You got to do the same thing. Find a script and practice it, and then make sure that you're consistently making the calls, getting in front of people, having those conversations. Okay. Um, then understanding that it's a 90-day process. Through that time, you will still be working with buyers. You will still be working with buyers, but one of the things that you can incorporate in your dialogue when you're talking to sellers is the fact that you are a high level, high value buyer agent and you work with a lot of buyers. What are sellers looking for? What are they looking for when they put their home on the market? They're looking for buyers. Guess what you have? Buyers. So use that to your advantage. Use that to your advantage. Now, to be a listing monster, you got to know how to handle objections, obstacles, and conditions. You have to, and again, this is the whole part of understanding we get paid based on how well we communicate, right? How well we influence. Um, the belief system that we walk around with, like how confident are we that we are the best agent for that client? All those things are important. And you're going to come across sellers that are not going to be super easy to talk to. They're going to challenge you. They're going to challenge you. They're going to challenge you on price. They're going to challenge you on commission. They're going to challenge you on the length of the contract. They're going to challenge you on what makes you different. Why should I hire you? There's somebody else I know down the street, or my friend is a real estate agent. What do you do that they don't do? They're going to challenge you on, you know what, the time's not right because it's the holiday season. So I don't want to list my home. You got to know how to handle that. We don't want to lose our low rate. Maybe they currently are secured a low rate. You got to be able to talk through that and handle that. And then just even understanding, because it's a low inventory market, when they put their home on the market, it's helping increase inventory. But also, too, if they're buying another property, they are still going to be challenged being a buyer in a low inventory market. So how do you handle that? How do you articulate and break that down? Right. And again, this is why being a very strong buyer agent will make you, it won't necessarily guarantee it makes you a strong listing agent, but the transition would be much more seamless for you. It'll be much easier to catch on. We got somebody's car going off. So please, hopefully you don't really hear that much. Now, when we talk about price, like that is going to be a critical conversation that you're going to need to have during your presentation. During your presentation. Another thing, people may come up with a price objection while you're on the phone. Here's what I always tell people: if you get a price objection or a price question via phone, if you've not seen the property yet, delegate to the meeting, delegate to you seeing that house, and then you can give them a healthy price range. Okay. Because by the way, we're not going to ever tell somebody your home is worth X amount, because the reality, we don't determine the value of the home. Okay. We don't determine the value. Who determines the value? The market. The market is the buyer. The buyer determines the value of the house. So I'm never going to tell somebody your home is worth $320,000. I could tell them your home is going to be worth this within this range of 310 to 330 based on what the market is telling us. But I'm never going to tell somebody your home is worth X amount. And I'm definitely not going to do it if I'm not seeing the house yet. So if you get that on the phone, if you get that objection on the phone or question, you let them know, listen, I appreciate that question. And based on, I don't have the information in front of me, and I never want to be the agent to tell you a price on your home when I've not seen the house yet. I feel like that is a lack of integrity. So what I can do is I can come see the property, blah, 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 right? So that's number one. Now, number two, if you are in the midst of the consultation, of the presentation, and you're having to get the seller on the same page as you when it comes to the price, or we could call it, and we call it on our team, the pricing strategy, because we tell the seller, and it's the reality, the price is just an invitation for the buyer. The price isn't always what it's going to sell for. Okay. But the price is the number that entices the buyer to be interested enough to come see the property. That is all it is. And if we can get enough buyers feeling feeling that way, what we do is we drive the demand up for your property. And when we drive the demand up for your property, we typically get more offers. If we get more offers, then you make more money. And when you make more money, then ultimately you won. You won the game. Okay. So if you're trying to get the seller on the same page as you when it comes to the pricing strategy, providing to them the healthy range, what I do is I just provide to them the range. And I ask them, hey, what makes sense for you? We could start here as a strategy. We can start here as a strategy, and we can start here as a strategy. What makes the most sense for you? And I have them choose because I want them to own their decision. Okay. So I'm not gonna go deeper into that because again, that's a whole nother podcast. But you gotta know how to handle objections in advance by your process. Having a very strong presentation allows you to literally handle any objections that you have in advance, or prevent any objections occurring, period. Okay. Now, another thing, you have to be, when you generate, you don't have to tolerate. Okay. And the power is in your pipeline. So you have to be secure enough in your ability and have a pipeline of several clients that are ready and willing to make a move and put you to work. If you have that in place, you can show up with a type of energy that, and you won't say this to them, but you could show up with the energy of, hey, I'm here to help you. I don't need your listing. I'm here to help you. And when you are detached from the outcome, but you're attached to the process, you're detached from the commission check, but you're attached to following a process that's proven to get their home sold at the top dollar, you're able to actually look at a seller straight in the eye and say, I'm not the agent for you if you want to list your house $400,000 above what the market is telling us your home is worth. Or let's say you take that listing, but 21 days have passed and you haven't had any showings. There's nobody interested. Like nothing is happening. And this seller told you they needed to be moved into their new house within 90 days. You're already a month in. You only got 2 months. And by the way, once you get the home under contract, you probably got another 30 to 45 days to close. So we're approaching that time. And now it's time after 21 days to have that discussion about a price adjustment. When you have a pipeline of sellers that are ready and willing to list with you because of the prospecting efforts you were putting in, because of your skill set, you can look that current seller in the eye and not be afraid to ask for an adjustment. Some of us are afraid to do stuff like that. I'm here to tell you, the more authority you have and the more detached you are from the outcome or their response, but you're just committed to following the process, the stronger the listing agent you become. You become a listing monster because you are not slave to the listing. Does that make sense? That would be like a doctor who is like, you go to the doctor and for some reason a doctor is not the authority and you're the authority, but you're looking at the doctor for advice and recommendations and guidance, but that doctor is not the authority. Like, that's going to turn you off. You're going to be like, whoa, this isn't making sense to me. I need another doctor. Well, that doctor that you show up to that looks you in the eye and they say, here's what we need to do to prevent X from happening. Here are your options. What do you want to do? Here's what I recommend. Out of the 3 options, I recommend this one first. But what do you want to do? And they'll look you right in the eye. But they're detached. That's who you need to be. But you can only have that if you have a pipeline of clients and you consistently show up every day and you do your prospecting stuff. Okay. What I want to do, because I feel like this is going to be something I'm going to do. This may end up being a 2-3 parter because there's so much more things we can dive into, but I didn't want to go too long on this episode. So I'm going to leave you guys with this last thing, and then I'm going to consider doing a part 2 to this. If it's not like the next episode, maybe a few episodes, I'll come back to breaking this down even in more detail because there's so many things we can unpack. You have to, as a listing monster, if you're building up yourself to be a listing monster, you have to have a USP, a unique selling proposition, or a guarantee, something. Because again, if you're stepping into this person, into this high value person, this listing monster, there are going to be competitors. There are going to be other agents that are fighting for the same listings and homes that you want to list. You separate yourself from being competent and capable 100%, but also having guarantees and USPs that are only you offer. Okay. We have 4. You need to come up with yours. And it can be just as simple as, hey, I am not going to hold you in a contract if we agree to work together. And for whatever reason, you want to take your home off the market or you want to fire me. Well, we have a cancellation guarantee or we have a easy exit clause that allows you to get out of it. And you don't pay us a retainer fee. You don't pay us back for the marketing. Like, you're all good to go. As a matter of fact, we're so serious about that, we put that in the contract. That's the guarantee. Most agents maybe have something like that, but they don't talk about it. Why? Because they're afraid of putting that out there. They have fear that it may come true, which it probably would if that agent feels that way. It probably shows that they have a tendency of not providing exceptional service or doing a good job. And they've had people fire them before. So they don't want to, that's probably why. But if you're confident in your ability, if you can have a guarantee like that or any other type of USP, you could use that in your marketing. You can use that in your dialogues. And ultimately, it's going to really reduce the the obligation feeling that a seller would have with an agent, because a seller doesn't want to be in a long-term contract that doesn't turn to into fruition. They want results, and they also want to limit as much risk as possible. How can you provide that to the seller and articulate it the right way? So you got to come up with some USPs. One would be just fine. We have four, okay? And then also, there's so many more things that we offer as well. But the four that we market are like, and we call it our smart seller program. The four that we market really helps the seller feel more at ease, um, feel like they're really mitigating the risk by working with us, and that ultimately they're going to get the best results. So you got to come up with your own. You can use Chat GPT for that stuff. You can talk to other agents that you maybe not in your market, but outside of your market that you look at, and you like their business that they're building. Maybe ask them; they may be open to sharing it. If you were to send me a DM or reach out to me, I will share mine with you or our team with you, and you could use ours. And but here's the thing: just starting out, get a presentation, be consistent on your prospecting, know how to handle certain objections, understand how to confidently walk or in I guess walk talk through the process to help the client feel confident, and gain clarity. So handling those objections, and then have a USP or have multiple ones that separate you from your competition. That's the beginning steps to be a listing monster. But if you got that stuff dialed in, I promise you, in 90 days, you're going to be well on your way to building an incredible listing business. Like I promise you, it's really that simple. And then like all the little nuances we can just plug in as we go. Okay. But the most critical things are what I just talked about. All right, y'all. We're going to put a bow on this one. This one is, in my opinion, one of my favorite ones because I love listings. This is like, I love when my adrenaline is like, rising. I'm about to meet with a seller and it's game day for me. And it's like I treat it like a literal game. Like when I say game, imagine LeBron James, it's game day. He wakes up at a certain time. He stretches, he does his workout, he goes and he follows like a pre-game ritual, right? And then when it's game time, he scores 40. It's the game winner. Like I love the preparation of it. And then I love walking out of the house knowing that I was the best agent for that client, but further getting that contract signed. Like I love the rush of that. So, anyways, y'all be strong out there. I'll if you guys need anything, reach out to me. Like, comment, subscribe. You know what to do. So you guys be strong. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.